Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to discuss about UI policies actions, UI policies related list actions. After that, we are going to see the demo of it. So let's begin with what is UI policies. UI policies are client-side logic which runs on the client side, that is on the browsers of the user. It governs the form and the form fields behavior. Okay, they are like client scripts, but UI policy does not always require scripting in it. Correct. We use the no code approach in UI policies. With the help of UI policies, we can make a field read only, make a field visible, make a field hidden, make a field mandatory without using any code. That's why we use UI policies, so that we get to the approach of no code. So if you face difficulty in writing the code, we can use the UI policies. Now let's see the form of a UI policies. What are the things we have to remember while creating a UI policy? Now, as you can see on the screen that we had opened one of the UI policy of incident table. So that's how the form of UI policy looks. It will have a table, short description, application active checkbox, and then it will have two sections like when to apply and script section. And after that, it's going to have some related list. Okay. But we have to remember that whenever you are configuring a UI policy, always configure the UI policy in advanced view, because you are going to see different fields in the advanced view. Okay, so if you are not able to see some of the fields on the UI policies form, try to switch it back to the advanced view. So this is one of the things to remember, that configure the UI policy in advanced view. Okay, now let's talk about the fields of the UI policy. So for the first field will be the table field, for which table you are going to create a UI policy. After that, you are going to give a short description. Short description must be very descriptive so that the other developer can identify that for which purpose this particular UI policy is being used. And if you want to make the UI policy inactive, then you can always uncheck the active checkbox. So that was the functionality of these fields. Now if we scroll down, there is a section that is called when to apply. So in this section, we decide when a particular UI policy will apply for a particular table. So here, as you can see, that we will provide some of the conditions when this UI policy will execute. If the condition executes true, then and then only the actions of the UI policy will be taken on the form of a table. Okay, so we have to remember that if you don't provide any condition here, then the conditions value will be always true. No conditions provided, conditions will be true, and that UI policy will always execute whenever there is a change on the form of a table. Try to provide the conditions for executing a UI policy. If you don't provide it, it will execute whenever there is a change on a form, and it can cause the performance issues also. Okay, so try to provide the conditions. Just like on hold reason is awaiting caller and state is on hold. If these two are true, then and then only the UI policy will execute for a incident form. After that, we have some checkboxes like global checkbox, onload checkbox, reverse if false checkbox, and inherit checkbox. So let's see what these checkboxes do. Okay, so if you want to run the UI policy when the form is being loaded, then you can always check this onload checkbox. And if you don't want it, then uncheck it whenever there is a change on a particular field, then and then only the UI policy will execute. Now, what does inherit checkbox means? Inherit checkbox means if you want to apply this UI policy to the table which extend the incident table, okay, then you can always check this checkbox. And once you check this checkbox, this particular UI policy will be applicable to the table which extend the incident table. That's why we use the inherit checkbox. Then we have reverse if false checkbox. So if the condition evaluate to false, then what we have to do? We have to reverse the actions, or we have to take the actions. So if the conditions evaluated true, then the actions of the UI policy executed, like the fields become mandatory, the fields become read only. And if it executes to false, then the effect of the UI policy is actions reverses. The fields will not become the mandatory and it will not become read only also. Okay, that's why we use the reverse if false checkbox. Now we are going to see the functionality of global checkbox. Global checkbox is used to apply the UI policy for all the form views. So if we go to the incident form, we can see this is a particular form view for the incident. Okay, if we click on additional actions and go to view, then we can see these are the available views for the incident form. Okay, now if you want to apply the UI policy for all of these views, then you can check the global checkbox. And if you don't want, if you want that the UI policy must apply to a specific view for a form, then you can uncheck it and set the view field on the UI policy. Now if the view field is not available, then you can always use the form designer by going to configure and form design, open it and bring the view field here and set the view name for which view you want that particular UI policy must execute. Okay, so this was the functionality of global checkbox. So we have seen what is the functionality of these fields, and we have seen what is the functionality of when to apply section. Okay, we have seen what is the functionality of the checkboxes. Now we are going to move to our next topic, that is UI policy actions and UI policy related list actions. So if we scroll down, we can see we have two related lists, that is UI policy actions and UI policy related list actions. So UI policies actions are used to make a field mandatory, visible or read only. So if we click on new, this is the form of UI policy actions, and we can see the UI policy field is auto populated and is read only, for which we are going to create a UI policy actions. The table is incident, and here we are going to select the field name for which we have to perform the UI policy actions. So if we click on it, we see the model box appears, and from here you can select any field which are available in this model box. Okay, once we select a field, that field will appear here, and after that we can make a field mandatory, visible, read only, or clear the field value if you want. So in the mandatory, visible and read only, we have three values like leave alone, true or false. If the value is set to leave alone, nothing will happen to a category field. But if a value is set to true, then the condition of UI policy executes to true, then this UI policy action will set the category field to mandatory. Okay, and if it is false, then it will set the category field to not mandatory. Likewise, we have for visible, okay, leave alone, true and false. Likewise, we have for read only, leave alone, true and false. Okay, if we check this checkbox, then it will clear the value which the user has filled for the category field. Okay, so that was the purpose of UI policy actions. We can make a field mandatory, visible and read only, and we don't have to use any code. So if we go back, now here you can see that there is a UI policy actions, that is field name will be comments, make the field comments mandatory true, leave it alone for visible and leave it alone for read only. Means visible and read only operation will not be performed, only the mandatory operation will perform when this condition will execute to true. If on hold region is awaiting caller and state is on hold, then make comments field mandatory. Now what is the purpose of UI policy related list actions? So if we go to our incident form and if we scroll down, then we are going to see the related list like task SLAs, affected CIs, impacted services, CIs. Okay, so these are the related lists which are available on the incident form. Now if you want to make it hidden or visible on the basis of some condition, then we can do it with the help of UI policy without using any code. So if we go back here, we have to use the UI policy related list actions for making a related list of a table visible or hidden. So if we click on this and click on new, now here it will ask the list name, then these are the available list for the incident table. We have seen the tasks, SLA tasks, affected CIs, impacted CIs, service offerings. So these are the related lists that we have seen on the incident form, and these can be hidden and visible with the help of UI policy related list actions. You just have to select the list name, which list you want to hide. So if we select the impacted CIs, and here we will see the visible, it will also have the same choices like leave alone, true or false. So if it is true, then the conditions of the UI policy executes to true. This particular related list will be visible on the form, and if it is set to false, then it will not be visible on the form. and if it is set to leave only, nothing will happen. Okay, so this was the functionality of UI policy related list actions related list of UI policy. Now we are going to see the demo of UI policy and UI policy actions. We are not going to see the demo of UI policy related list actions because the video for this is already available on the channel. If you want to see the demo of it, then you can watch this video. In this, we have defined that how you can hide or make a related list visible using the UI policy. Okay, so let's begin the demo of UI policy. For the demo of UI policy, what we are going to do is that we are going to make service offering and configuration item field visible and mandatory. The condition will be that when the category is set to none, then we are going to hide these fields from the form, and if the category is inquiry help, software, hardware, network or database, then we are going to make these fields visible and mandatory. So we are going to perform these activities with the help of UI policy. For creating a UI policy, what we have to do, either you can open the UI policy from the form itself by clicking on additional actions and go to configure options. In the configure option, you will see the UI policies. Click on it, then the list of the UI policies will be visible to you. And if you want to open the UI policy from the list view of the incident, then also you can do it. So if we go back to our ServiceNow page, click on all navigation menu. In the filter navigator, type incident.list. It will open the list of incidents, and in each columns you will see this option, column options. Okay, so click on this, and in the configure you will see the UI policies options available. Click on this, it will open the list of UI policies that are applicable on incident and task table, because incident extends the task table. Okay, now click on new button. It will open the UI policy form, and the form will open in the advanced view by default. Okay, here you can see what are the values of the fields that are by default set. Like table is set to incident, active is set to true, means checked, application is set to global, and here we can see the global checkbox is checked, onload checkbox is checked, and reverse if false checkbox is checked. Okay, now let's begin creating our UI policy by providing the soft description, that is make service offering configuration item fields mandatory and visible. Okay, so this is the short description, which is very useful to other developers also if they are working on the incident UI policy. Now we are going to scroll down and we are going to go to when to apply and add the conditions. Condition will be that if the category is one of inquiry, help, software, hardware, network, database, then service offering configuration item fields will be visible and mandatory. Okay, so go back and choose the field will be category. Okay, select it, and the operator will be is one of. Now select the first one and click on control to select the other. Right now we are pressing the control and clicking on our mouse. That's why you can select the multiple values. Okay, now we are going to leave global, onload, reverse if false, and inherit checkbox as it is. Now we are going to save the UI policy, and you will see the change here. Instead of new record, you are going to see the value of short description. So if we save the UI policy form, now you can see that the new record value is not here. The value of short description is available here. Now if we scroll at the bottom, we have to add the UI policy actions so that we can make service offering and configuration items fields mandatory and visible. So we have UI policy actions. Click on new. Here what we are going to do is that we are going to select our service field. The fields which are visible on the models are alphabetically ordered, so our service will be present here. Okay, this is the field. If we click on it, the field name is service. We have to make it mandatory and visible, make it true and true, and save the UI policy actions, because we have to remain on the same form as we have to create the UI policy actions for service offering and configuration item also. So let's quickly change the field name to service offering. Okay, select this field, and now you can see the field name is changed to service offering. The operations will be similar, mandatory will be true, visible will be true. Now don't update the form. Okay, why? Because right now you can see the UI policy action is for business underscore service. Okay, means this is for this, the backend value of service is business underscore service. Okay, so if you update it, the UI policy that we have created is going to update. We have to create a new UI policy with the same operation. So instead of updating, don't update it. Instead of updating, click on additional actions and select this insert and stay. Insert will insert the new UI policy action and stay on the same form, and single insert will take you to the previous form. Okay, insert and stay. We are going to click it. Okay, now we have successfully created the service offering UI policy actions. Next, we have to create for configuration item. So we have to select the configuration item field. It will be available here. Okay, select it. The operations will be similar, but this time we have to go back to our previous form. So we will just say insert. Okay, now you can see that this brings us back to our UI policy form, and if we scroll, we can see our 3 UI policies actions available here. CMDB CI, business services, service offering. These are the backend names of these 3 fields. Service backend name is business underscore service, service offering is service underscore offering, and configuration item is CMDB underscore CI. Okay, now when the category is one of inquiry, software, hardware, network, and database, these 3 UI policies actions is going to execute and make these fields mandatory and visible. So let's test this functionality on our instance form. For this, we have to reload the instance form. Always reload the instance form for checking the UI policies or the client scripts, because these are the things will execute on the browsers of the users. As you can see that our service offering configuration item is mandatory. Why? Because our condition is executes to true, category is inquiry, help. Okay, and these UI policies actions execute, and plus our onload checkbox is checked. So once the form is loaded, the UI policy runs and it runs the UI policy actions. Okay, now if we change the category to none, what will happen? Correct, the fields service, service offering, and configuration item will be hidden and not mandatory. Okay, so we are going to change the category to none. See, now you can see that the fields service, service offering, and configuration item is not visible on the form, and also they are become not mandatory. Now we select the category, they are back. Okay, if we do it again and select other category, it's working. Okay, and why this is happening? When we are setting the category to none, service, service offering, configuration item fields are hidden and not mandatory, because here we have selected the checkbox reverse if false. Okay, when the condition is false, then do the opposite of it. Okay, so right now the condition, when it is set to none, the condition becomes false, and whatever the actions performing here, the opposite of it will happen. The opposite of UI policy actions will be that service field will not become visible and mandatory, service offering field will not become visible and mandatory, and configuration item field will not become visible and mandatory. Okay, so that's how you can use the UI policy and make the configuration changes for the form of a table without using any code. And if you want to see one more example of using onload checkbox, then you can watch this video that is called how we can compare the dates without using the GlideDateTime API. Okay, so try the UI policies on your personal developer instance. If you face any difficulties, write it down in the comment sections. If you like this video, do share the videos with others. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you for watching this video. Bye bye.